When it comes to leadership, there are two very important leadership things to think about. One of them has to do with being self-aware, and the other one is being able to address transformation and change. When I'm talking about leadership, when I do workshops on management leadership, the participants in the workshop would typically ask me, what's the difference between a leader and a manager? And there are a lot of definitions. The one that I like is by Kotter. A manager is someone who manages complexity. So obviously any management job has some complexity. Depending on the type of the job, depending on the type of the industry, the complexity could be vary. So the manager's job is to manage complexity. A leader's job is to identify any change in complexity coming in. So that's where the change piece starts to come in. So what I want to do is I'm going to take only a few minutes for this particular presentation, and I'm just going to talk about at a very fundamental level. What are some of the things that are important when you're thinking of transformation or change management, in the sense of if your organization or you individually or your team is thinking of going from a point A to point B, what are some of the things to think about? Okay, so I'm going to take a few minutes just to talk about it a little bit. So any transformation, you obviously have a current state. This is where we are. This could be at an individual level, at a personal level. It could be for a team, could be for a company, any organization, and so on. And then obviously we have a desired state where we want to go. So one of the key things that is important is the team to really make sure that they are on the same page is what is the desired state. What are they right now and where do they want to be? Now, in order to get from the current state to the desired state, obviously we have to go through some kind of a transformation or some kind of a change. But there are two elements. One obviously has to do with having the cognitive ability, the knowledge, the skills to be able to make it happen. And that is important. But what happens a lot of times, if it is a large change affecting a lot of people, large piece of organization, the piece that makes it very critical is the organization, the team's emotional commitment to feel like where they are today on the current state is not good enough, or it is not going to be good for them from a competition point of view or from financial security point of view. They all have to kind of have the emotional commitment that what I have today, current state, I am not happy with it. The second piece of the emotional commitment is that they all feel collectively, not everybody has to be exactly on the same page or the same side of the page. At least they should be on a broad basis on the same page, and that is where are they want to go and why. And that emotional, the desire and commitment to change is really important. So if you're a leader where you're trying to make transformation or you're trying to make a change, be aware of this passive resistance. And that is really, a lot of times, even research has shown, if the majority of the people or big chunk of the organization does not have the desire and commitment to go from point A to point B, either because they're happy with current state and or they don't fully understand the desired state. And so you just want to make sure that you kind of get your head around that. The other piece I want to share with you is a change management model. Is designed by a company called ProSci. And, I'm certified for that particular model. And that model basically has that any change that you're going to go through has to go through these steps. The first step is the awareness. And the awareness basically is that are you individually, if I was trying to make a change, or if I am doing it for a team, or if I'm doing it for an organization, making sure there is clarity on what are we changing. Like, what are we changing? Because if we're not very clear on what we are changing, then I think we are stuck there. Once we get to that point, there is some clarity to what we are changing. The next step is even more important. It's the clarity on why are we changing. Because getting back to my prior chart, if majority of the people are happy where they are, and some portion of the organization, especially the top management, wants to go to the desired state, and there is no clarity on why are we changing, then the research has shown, done by ProSci, that the projects fail because there is inherent passive resistance, and that basically will slow things down, and it would be very, very difficult to make the change, especially if the change is not evolutionary, quote unquote, just small changes. It is more evolutionary and you want to go pretty fast, then to make sure that you have a good feel, somehow be able to convince your team as a leader, the clarity on what and why. Once you have gone through that step, it's then only you should be talking about the how. It's clarity on how are we going to change. How are we going to go from point A to point B? Remember, awareness, we basically set the stage of the, hey, we have to change. And what are we going to change? Desire and commitment is clarity on why are we going to change. And this is where once people agree, hey, listen, if I don't do it, we're going to be in trouble. Or if I do it, I am going to get a lot of benefits. So whatever the motivational piece is, either walking away from something that is bad or moving towards something that is good, once the organization feels there's a clarity on why we are changing, then you're going to start to get the inertia and you're going to start to get the momentum going forward. And then you can start to focus on the clarity on how are we going to change. Now, depending on the activity, depending on the project, there is a step between knowledge and abilities. What is the difference, right? This is where I think, as a teacher, is very clear, right? I can teach somebody finance. I can teach somebody what a balance sheet is, what an income statement is, or I can teach in economics, supply, demand curve, etc. So that's the knowledge I have given them. But they don't have the ability yet. Ability basically is if they have to learn how to apply it. And hence, even when it comes to change management, we want to create the knowledge for people to know how to change. Then we give them this, create and help them create the skill set so they can have the ability to go make it happen. And that's where sometimes what you're going to find that you want to go through these steps. The final step, obviously, is to measure progress, because remember, we started the journey. Where we are is not where we want to be. We want to be someplace that is different. But then we have to also articulate where we want to be in the future. How will we know we got there? And hence, identifying how we're going to measure progress, because we don't want to wait to measure the end point. We want to have interim steps to do it. So the reinforcement and the continuous improvement process is measuring progress and change process and fine-tuning it. Now, one thing that I've seen a lot is this circle over here. So sometimes we think we have trained our employees, and we think they know how to do it. What we want to do is to make sure we check to know if they have the ability. Many a times you're going to find that some people may require getting the knowledge again or from a different perspective. So look at that loop and you're going to do that. So, just a quick, it's kind of, change management philosophy, that is important. In a punchline, if you are going to change for yourself individually, for a team, for a company, organization, make sure there is clarity in what are we changing, which is the awareness. Make sure there is a clarity on why are we changing, which is desire and commitment. Then you get into the knowledge, clarity on how are we going to change. Then we apply the knowledge and learning and achieve the change. But then we want to basically measure the progress. So I hope this was helpful, just a short kind of, a tutorial on change management.